Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to talk about high school and more specifically the differences between American and French high school. Because if you don't know, I am French, but I did study abroad in the United States for about 5 years. So I did finish my senior year in France and then I moved to the US and I did my senior year in the United States. So I thought in this video today I was going to share some of the differences I found and experienced myself between the different high school in France and the United States. To go somewhere new. So first thing is how many years you have in high school. In France we have 3 years of high school versus in the United States you have about 4 years of high school. So the second thing that is really different is what you study in high school. So in the United States it's pretty general for all 4 years of high school. You have a bunch of different classes from a bunch of different subjects. Of course you can also choose a few specific classes you want, but in general you kind of don't have to choose a major or something like that. Versus France, where you have 3 years of high school, the first one is pretty general, but then after the end of that last one, you need to choose a major basically for the 2 more years you will have in high school. So it's not like a major in college where it's a lot more specific, but it's still like choose a path in what you will like eventually to major in when you will go to college. So it's still already a huge decision because you're not going to be able to do the same thing in college after you choose different paths. So basically you have 3 choices. The first one is more like science. The second one is more like literature, languages, art. And then the third one is more like kind of a mix of both. But it's more like economy, social, history kind of thing. So you have these 3 paths and you have to pick one you want to major in for the 2 more years you have in high school. So it's a huge decision, it's not that easy. So it's really weird maybe for Americans to understand because you don't have that, but we have to pick already in high school kind of the start of what we want to major in the future in college. Number 3 are hours. In France, days are a lot longer than in the United States. So for example, in France, usually you will have class from like 8:30 in the morning to like 5 p.m. every day, and sometime on Saturday as well, but just in the morning, not the afternoon. But in the US, it will be like 8:30 in the morning maybe to like 2 p.m., maybe 1 p.m., 3 p.m., I think maximum 3 p.m., but I think it was more like 2 p.m. So I think you have a lot more sport in school, so it's like people can stop school and then go to, you know, doing some football, cheerleading, basketball, or all the sports you can do in the United States. But we don't have that in France, so we actually have classes all day until like 5 p.m. So the days are a lot longer and it's more tiring. I mean, you can do it, it's fine, but it's just when I went to the US, then it sounds like so much nicer because it was way shorter. But yeah, so it's a huge difference, it's the length of the day. However, we need to keep in mind in the US, the lunch break is a lot shorter than in France. So for example, during high school in France, we had like at least an hour to eat, maybe even 2 hours sometimes. And in the US, I think it was like half an hour maybe, so it was a lot shorter. So it also counts in the day why your day is a lot shorter in the US versus France, where we have a long time to eat. Number 4, like I just said, is some people have school on Saturdays in France, but not in the United States. So yes, in the US you don't have school on Saturday at all, but in France you can. It's not everyone, but some people may have. I did, so I did have school on Saturdays. I actually had 4 hours of philosophy on Saturday morning, so it was kind of rough. But yeah, not everyone has that. Basically, you have a schedule. Not every class has the same schedule, and some classes have school on Saturday, some don't. My class was one of the ones that was picked to have school on Saturday. So yeah, on Saturday morning I had to go to high school. Number 5, it's actually a huge thing for me because I think it's really weird, is that in the US, you don't have one specific class with the same people. When I say a class, I don't really know how you call it, the class of, but you know, it's just like people you will always be in whatever subjects you're going to study. So in the US, basically what it was like is like you have a schedule with a bunch of classes and you don't always have the same people in each class. Whereas in France, you basically have one class of people. So yeah, we have like 30 people and they're always together and we all have to attend the same classes. And so yeah, in France you will have all the 30 people and you have all the subjects with them every day for like a year, or sometimes if you do the same path as they do, then you have them for 2-3 years. So yeah, it's really different than in the US where you have a bunch of different classes with a bunch of different people. I think both things can be good or bad. I feel like in the US it's cool because then you get to know more people because you move around and you have different classes with different people, so it's nice. Number 5 is lunch break. So I talked about it already a tiny bit, but like I said, like it's longer in France than in the US. In France it's like about sometimes 2 hours. In the US I think it was about half an hour. But it's not the only difference about lunch break. The other thing is that in the US it's a lot more common, pretty normal that people bring their own food to the cafeteria. But in France you can't do that. Like I think you're not even allowed to bring a lunchbox. So you go to the cafeteria, everyone eats the same thing from the cafeteria. You can't really bring your own food. And also the food is so different. Like in the US I think it was really bad because you don't really have good food for you to eat. Like it's really unhealthy. You have a lot of like, we had like pizza, fries, a lot of potatoes, even fried chicken, a lot of really greasy, salty, like sugary food. And even for drinks, like you will have like some milk chocolate and stuff like that. So I thought that was really weird because in France it was completely different. We really had like healthier food. We had a lot of veggies, you know, fruits, sometimes fish, a bunch of stuff. So I think it was much better in France for that matter because I felt like that's really unhealthy. Number 6. So this one is a bit more about like how you're allowed to move around. So in the US I feel like in the high school you can't really leave so much the building and go around and do other stuff. But in France, you can actually leave the high school and go in the city. Basically, for me, I talk about that because I had my high school in a city, you know. So like, we could go outside the high school, go get some, I don't know, something to eat outside, go hang out in a park. Like we're doing that usually when it was really nice outside. We'll go in the park, sit down, eat lunch there, and then come back for our afternoon classes. And you can't really do that, I feel like, in the US. Let me know if I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of high school you can't not really leave the high school, I feel like, during the day. So in France you can actually do that, you're allowed to do whatever. Number 7, sports. I talked about that in a lot of different videos, but it's a huge thing, so I kind of repeat myself. But also in high school is a huge thing to do sports in the US, and it's part of the school spirit of the school. It's part of the school just by itself, you know. So you have like a school team, a school basketball team, a school football team, cheerleaders and stuff like that. Whereas in France, we don't have sports with the school really. Like we have a sport class where we do a little bit of sport and we learn to do this kind of sport, but we don't have sports team or anything. If you do sports team, it's like outside of class, it doesn't have anything to do with the school. So if you want to do basketball, it's not with the school, it will be with something outside of school. So it's so different. We don't have sport at school. It's also probably why we have school all day and it doesn't finish at 2 p.m. like in the US, because in the US school, sport is part of school, so you can finish at 2 p.m. and then do your sport at school. In France you don't have that, and also you don't have that school spirit about sport because we don't have school sports. I thought that was really fun in the US to have all that kind of school spirit about football, about basketball, any sport you may play. So next one, we're going to talk about grades. So grading system is pretty different in France and the US. So in the US you will use A, B, C's, or like percentage, like 80%, I got 90%. In France we will use grades out of 20. So instead of having A, B's or a percentage, we'll have like a 10 out of 20, a 15 out of 20, 8 out of 20. And most grades will be out of 20, sometimes out of 10 or something, but most of the time it's out of 20. So the grading system is really different. So you might be a bit thrown off if you come to France or if you're French and you go to the US, because it just takes a little moment to adjust to and understand like what does it mean, if it's good or if it's bad. So in France, for example, like 10 of 20 is the middle ground, you know. So it's not really good, but it's not bad because you at least got 10 out of 20. Under 10 it's bad because you don't even have 50%. From like 10 to like 12, 13 it's like okay, it's not super good but it's okay. Then from like 14 to like 15, 16 it starts to being pretty good, like nice, really pretty good. And then after 16 is really good. So last but not least, it's a random fact, but it's pretty funny because it's something that we see in all American movies in France, and it's something we kind of want to try, and it's not that cool, but it's yellow buses. So in France usually we don't really have a school bus, so basically we take the city bus. So when I went to high school, there was a city bus that just is a city bus, it's not just for school, and I had to take that to go to high school. Versus in the US you have specific school buses, yellow school buses, that are dedicated to take kids from school to school and from school. So we don't really have that in France. And also, like, we see them in all American movies, so a lot of French people are kind of want to try them. And it was so uncomfortable, so I don't recommend it. It's not that great, it's really uncomfy. However, what is cool is that it just goes right in front of your house. And yeah, so that's pretty fun because the city bus doesn't go right in front of your house. It's something we don't really have in France, and I thought it was cool to try in the US, but it's not that comfortable. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to know more about French and American differences, for example about university, I did a video about it, so go watch it, and I'll see you next time for another video. Bye!